All right, I'm going to begin by reading from the Gospel of Luke. So one day Jesus said to his disciples, "Let's go over to the other side of the lake." So they got into the boat and set out, and as they sailed, he fell asleep. A squall came down on the lake, so that the boat was being swamped, and they were in great danger. The disciples went and woke him, saying, "Master, Master, we're going to drown." He got up, and he rebuked the wind and the raging waters. The storm subsided, and all was calm. In this session tonight, we're going to be focusing on making the first caring visit. When you receive your first care receiving assignment and prepare for that initial visit, you're coming into someone who is being swamped by a storm in their life. Your new care receiver may be every bit as frightened and frantic as the Jesus disciples were in the stormy Sea of Galilee. As you enter the storms of your care receivers' lives, it's important to remember and believe that Jesus is capable of calming those storms in his way and in his time. Your role as a Stephen minister is not to rebuke the wind and the raging waters or to still the storms in your care receivers' lives. And that's a good thing, since none of us are capable of doing so, only God is. What we can do, and what we're called to do as Stephen ministers, is be fully present with people in the midst of those storms. We enter the care receiver's situation with full faith that Jesus goes with us. He's responsible for the outcome, not you, and he will bring the hope and the healing that our care receivers need. The prospect of entering another person's storm-tossed life may sometimes create a bit of an emotional storm in your own life as well. Although these feelings might be uncomfortable at times, they're very normal. Our own fears and uncertainties remind us of the need to trust that God is in control, moving us to deeper faith in the one who promises to work in us and through us and to care for those who are hurting. So, as you prepare for your first caring visit, I encourage you not to deny or suppress any difficult feelings you may have. Instead, do your best to recognize, accept, and express those feelings to one of your fellow Stephen ministers, to your supervision group, or to your Stephen leader. Embrace whatever you may be feeling and trust in Jesus to calm the storm. Let's take a minute to open with prayer. Gracious and compassionate Lord, you know our joys, you know our sorrows, you know our fears. We've talked about some of them already tonight. We are grateful for your presence in the midst of the storms that sometimes rock our lives. As we prepare to enter the lives of people who are experiencing their own storms, we pray that you will stretch and strengthen our faith. Help us be fully present with our care receivers in the time we have together. And help us trust that you are at work in their lives, caring through us. Thank you for your love and for your grace. We pray this in your name. Amen. So we're going to talk tonight, starting with how the referral process works. There's that funnel on page 475 in your training manual that shows that funnel. I'm gonna give you a few details about the referral process, and then we're gonna talk about the funnel quite a bit. So soon you are gonna be commissioned as Stephen ministers, June 23 in the morning service, and then you'll be ready after that for your first care receiver. But before that happens, I want to explain how the referral process works and answer any questions that you might have about being assigned a care receiver. So Sherry serves as our referral coordinator for our congregation for our Stephen ministry team. So that means she coordinates the caring ministry assignments, and she will typically be the one who will contact you about being matched with the care receiver. If you have a question about your Stephen ministry assignment, she's the person you're going to talk to. So that kind of funnels under, there are 6 main focuses in the Stephen ministry leadership team. Referrals is one of them, and Sherry heads the referral piece of Stephen Ministry. There are 5 others that Ron and Steve and I have different roles with, but Sherry is the referrals person. A critical piece in the Stephen Ministry system is the process we follow in finding people who need care from a Stephen minister to prepare them for Stephen Ministry and then connect them with care receivers with Stephen ministers. And this process is called making referrals. So if you hear that in supervision, or you hear that, that's kind of Stephen Ministry lingo that we use a lot. A lot of it happens in leadership, but Sherry will say, well, I will make a Stephen Ministry referral. And that means working through the process of deciding if the person is a good fit for Stephen Ministry. And it might happen in the referral process where we figure out that it's not a good fit for someone. So it goes both ways. More times than not, it's a good fit, but sometimes it's not. So that's why we go through that whole referral process. So focus note 1, which you have the funnel on, shows what the steps are that we kind of go through and who's part of those steps. It defines the process and identifies care receivers, and it matches them with Stephen ministers. Take just a minute or two and kind of read through the pieces of the funnel, and then we're going to kind of walk through it together with just a little bit more detail. So when you look at the funnel, above the funnel are the countless people in our congregation or in our community that are in need of some kind of care. They could be experiencing a wide range of life difficulties, and even though many of these people would benefit from having the care of a Stephen minister, most of them won't take the initiative on their own to find that care, and you'll find that to be very normal. Hurting people don't always very often seek out care. So that's why we need lookouts. We are on that lookout team. So here's that first piece of the funnel, lookouts. Lookouts identify potential care receivers. And the longer you're in Stephen Ministry, I'll just tell you, your radar is on like all the time. It's really interesting. After you've had care receivers and you go through the process and stuff, you are just kind of, this just becomes a natural part of who you are. So the first circle in the funnel is identifying potential care receivers, which is a team effort. It involves our Stephen leaders, it involves you as Stephen ministers, pastors, church staff. Often the office sees all different sorts of people walking through the door, elders and deacons, and just congregant members. But I would say the first 5 or 6 on that list are your main people, and they're called lookouts. They're people who are always keeping an eye out for someone who is hurting in the congregation or in the community, and they might benefit from having a Stephen minister. Lookouts are knowledgeable about Stephen Ministry. We've gone away from this a little bit, but on your pile, these used to be in our pew when we would have the register that people would sign. These would be in there, and this was something you could grab if you were on the lookout and noticed somebody. You could talk about what Stephen Ministry is really easily, and then more details about it being your ministry. So you can just have this, tuck it in your pocket. If you're out and about, might be in your Bible, just refresh yourself with what Stephen Ministry is. If you look at focus note 2 on 476, that also gives a really good description of what Stephen Ministry is. And you know enough about it now to be able to talk about it, but it's just good to refresh yourself with what it is. So it says here, our congregation Stephen Ministry equips lay members, which is you and me, to provide one-to-one Christian care to people in the church and community who are experiencing difficulties in their lives. Always important to say the ministry is confidential. The identity of the care receivers and everything they discuss with their Stephen ministers remains private. It provides emotional and spiritual care during many crises and life difficulties. And then it kind of gives this list of some of the main ones of people that we would go toward. Loss of a loved one, medical crisis, divorce or separation, spiritual crisis, someone who's providing long-term care for a loved one, retirement, unemployment, job crisis, military deployment of a loved one, birth, adoption, miscarriage, and fertility, relocation, we have had that, or recovery after an accident or a disaster. So all of you as Stephen ministers are part of this lookout team and helping to kind of identify people that would need care. Here's what you and all your other lookout people can do. Keep your eyes and ears open for friends, neighbors, coworkers, or others who are going through a difficult time. They may or may not be part of our congregation. I would say right now, thinking through it, we're usually on the higher end church, really the lower end community. 80-20, 75-25% is often where it kind of falls, but that ebbs and flows just a little bit. It doesn't matter. It can be, somebody that somebody else knows, and you would make the referral to Sherry, talk to Sherry about it, and she would make the decision of heading toward it. So as a lookout, rung 2 in the funnel, you are starting to pave the way for Stephen Ministry to be part of that person's life. So if you come across someone or you see someone with a need like those listed or something similar, you're going to start to pave the way for Stephen Ministry. Paving the way means talking to that person, making a connect, and at some point in a caring way, you're going to mention Stephen Ministry. All right, you can explain what it is, mention it to them. The one piece you have to be really careful of here is don't guarantee a Stephen minister, because the process has to happen first. And in the referral process, it may be decided that it is or isn't a good fit. So you're going to want to be careful, but you do want to get their permission to pass the name along to Sherry or to the leadership team. Okay? But don't promise anything. Okay? There are other considerations before a Stephen minister is assigned, and in a moment, and we'll see those things in a moment. Just express your concern to them. You can tell them that you even are a Stephen minister. And you could suggest Stephen Ministry as a possible way for them to get some help, and then ask for permission to connect them with Sherry. And then she will go into a much broader and deeper explanation of what Stephen Ministry is, and she'll be able to determine if Stephen Ministry is a good fit for that person. So the role of a lookout is crucial, because people who are hurting usually find it difficult to reach out for help themselves. But if you're that touch point, all right, you can help guide that piece of it. When someone they know shows and expresses concern in a caring way and suggests the possibility of a Stephen minister, they're often much more open to it. So you stepping in and showing care, mentioning Stephen Ministry, asking for possible permission to pass the name along, is already a layer of care that they may not have seen before. And they might be much more open to it. They might not. People say no quite easily to it. Sometimes it circles back, and then they might be more willing. All right? There are countless people in our congregation and community who are hurting and could benefit from a Stephen minister. So a team effort is needed. The more lookouts we have, the more we're able to identify those hurting people and try to connect them with a Stephen minister. So those cards there, you may take. I think they would be helpful. All right, Sherry then will step in. She's gonna prepare the care receiver. So you've laid a little bit of groundwork. You've mentioned it. They've given permission for their name to be passed on. So if you're looking at 477, we're on the third part of the funnel now. Referrals coordinator is gonna step in, and she will help in this care receiver, Stephen minister, possible relationship. She will meet with them. It's called a preparation interview, and she will spend some time with them, just kind of getting to know their situation. So during a preparation interview, she is gonna focus on 3 key things, and those are at focus note 3, if you wanna look at those. She will assess whether Stephen ministry is appropriate for the person's needs. She'll explain again what Stephen ministry is, if she'll go deeper into it. And then she'll seek permission to assign a Stephen minister. So when she meets with a potential care receiver, one of the most important goals is to learn more about the person's situation so she can determine whether the need is a good fit for Stephen ministry. And we know that it wouldn't be good if there was some kind of mismatch between the care receiver's needs and the care that we can offer. Often things that would come up in that would be addictive behavior, mental health things that we've already talked about that are beyond what a Stephen minister can help with. Things that appear really hard in the cyclical world that might not be something a Stephen minister can help with. Sherry's super intentional about only assigning care receivers that have appropriate needs for a Stephen minister. Once she decides it's a good fit, she'll explain more about Stephen ministry and we'll let them know what to expect, all right? So, for example, she's gonna want the potential care receiver to know that Stephen ministry is an in-person ministry, okay? There are rare cases where it would look different. Might be an email ministry. We did have one of those where a Stephen minister caring relationship with their care receiver started in person, and because of the nature of it, went to an every week email relationship. That was rare. It's usually in person, usually once a week for about an hour. They will talk at length about confidentiality. They'll talk about supervision, talk about boundaries, and she'll ask any questions that, ask for any questions that the care receiver might have. That way, I feel like the care receiver is really informed about the whole thing, can be confident that your care receiver, once it's stated that they will become one, they'll give permission. There's an agreement to receive care that they understand the confidentiality piece, they understand that this will be discussed at supervision, and you'll move forward with that understanding. She'll ask them, I think I put that in your pile, she'll ask the care receiver, there's all those things kind of laid out there too. She'll ask the care receiver if they're good with all of that, and if the person agrees to be part of Stephen ministry, she'll hand them the copy of the agreement to receive care. It's pretty formal. That means they understand all the pieces of it. That means we understand all the pieces of it. And when you're commissioned, you're agreeing to the pieces that are on there. So that's kind of what that is all about. So at that point, she'll explain all of that. This form will help ensure that the care receiver has a solid understanding of Stephen ministry and agrees to all pieces of it, including the boundaries. Sherry does a really good job of laying out the boundaries, laying out what supervision is, laying out confidentiality, so that they have a really good grasp. And they will ask questions. Some are worried about supervision. That's usually the one that they're most worried about. Sherry does a good job of laying the groundwork for boundaries so that they go in kind of knowing the expectations, and then that doesn't all fall on you. You know, she'll tell them it's for about an hour. You'll reinforce that when you meet with them for the first time, that it's about an hour. Sometimes people are not in the greatest state and they don't hear all of those pieces. So it's for their protection, it's for your protection. And also too, she keeps an eye out for the whole mental health piece and isn't gonna assign somebody that is not really in a good state for that. So if they agree, they will sign it. And then the next key piece is, after they have that meeting and the form is signed, she will tell that care receiver that within the next couple of days, they will be contacted by their new Stephen minister. Okay, so not much time lapses in between there. There are times when Sherry leaves a referral meeting and she's not 100% sure. So the conversation will end with, I need to pray about this. I need to think about if this is the best fit for you. I will get back to you in a day or two. See if you're still feeling good, about this. Are we still feeling good about this? And she likely then will contact the leadership team. We'll talk it over and kind of make the decision whether, and then she might pull back on the agreement. If she feels like there's red flags, she may not even give the agreement at that meeting if she's wondering. If she's sure, she'll give that agreement. If she's not sure, she'll hold it back and then contact them, and they'll meet again, usually within that week, just to touch base with like what I said. Are you still feeling good about this? We're feeling good about this, and then she'll move ahead. Sometimes she isn't sure who to fit this person with, okay? And that kind of goes with what's next. Coordinating, matching, caring relationships, all right? So once the person has agreed to having a Stephen minister, she will look at her list of, and we do meet and talk about this twice a month. She'll look at the list and see A, who's available, B, who's gonna be the best match out of who is available, all right? This, Sherry prays over this like crazy. This is not always an easy decision. You want to match them as best you can. If it's somebody from church, likely you know them. You may not know them well, you might know them really well. All of those things are kind of taken into consideration when you match someone. Sometimes she's not sure, so I'll just lay this all out for you so you know. If she's just not sure, she often will call me, sometimes the other leaders as well, but sometimes she just needs a sounding board and we talk this through. Sometimes she tells me who it is, sometimes she doesn't. Sherry always knows who has who in a caring relationship. Sometimes I know, sometimes the others know, sometimes only Sherry knows. So it kind of runs the gamut. If she's unsure about who to place them with, she might call me, explain it. She might say, do you think Julie would be a good fit for this? We'll talk it through, make a decision, move forward that way, okay? Or we might say, Julie's not available, is Rosalie a good fit? Maybe Rosalie's not a good fit. And you just have to have those conversations of, logically, what makes the most sense. Well, Rosalie works 4 days a week. This care receiver can only meet during the day on those 4 days. Rosalie's not a fit. All the logistics play into it. They can't meet at night, you can only meet at night. There's all kinds of things that come up. So when she makes the match, she'll fill out a referral form, which I think you also have on page 471. If not, I brought some copies. Not enough for everyone, I only had 2 in my file. But She will fill out a referral form, which provides you with some really basic information about the care receiver. So take a look at it, page 471 in your manual. All of the paperwork, you will not get the agreement to receive care. Sherry holds on to that, but you will get this piece of paper. You will also get your contact record sheet. Those pieces of paper that you have that have names on them, those are also highly confidential. So those have to be in places in your home where nobody is gonna find them or see them. My family knew this was my Stephen Ministry bag. They didn't go in there. They didn't dig in to find a pen or sticky notes or whatever. That was just Mom's Stephen Ministry bag, and that just was not something that they looked at ever. Even within your phone, I think I've mentioned that too. You know, I just would put in CR for care receiver. They didn't know who it was. All right, because it is super confidential. So when you do get one of these forms about your care receiver, keep it secure. When Sherry finds a potential care receiver for you, she's gonna call you. She's gonna give you a brief description of the care receiver's situation without at that point telling you that person's name. Sometimes she does, sometimes she doesn't. It just kind of depends. And then she's gonna ask whether you're willing to be that person's Stephen minister, listening to what's going on. If you agree, then she will meet with you as soon as possible. Often she does that on a Sunday, maybe after a worship service or before a worship service, because you're coming here anyway. So, or she might, before a regular Stephen Ministry meeting on a Thursday night, she might say, can you come 15 minutes early so we can take care of this? She's gonna share the care receiver's name. She's gonna give you the referral form so you have a brief description of what's going on, and then you can ask any questions about what's going on. You aren't gonna know much about your care receiver yet at this point, but obviously through your first meeting and subsequent meetings, you're gonna start to develop a relationship. On a rare occasion, you might hear the name of your care receiver and you might know that it's not a good fit for some reason. Okay, maybe there's a conflict of interest. Maybe there's some sort of issue that Sherry or myself or the leadership team didn't know about. If that happens, you can decline for those reasons, and that would be completely understandable. The one thing that's happened at that point now is you know the name of a care receiver that somebody else might get. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you're gonna wanna be careful with that information when you're sitting in supervision. You might know who it is. You'll start to hear the information because you've seen the referral sheet. They'll describe their situation. You're gonna go, oh, I know that so-and-so. That just all stays inside. You just keep that close, all right? And they will get a different Stephen minister. When you do accept your assignment, it's important, write this down because this is super important. When you get your assignment, it's important that you call the care receiver as soon as possible. So Sherry will call this the handoff. She will hand off the care receiver to you, and you are then to make the phone call to set up your first caring visit. This is what Sherry wants to know. She wants you to call when you have made arrangements to do that visit. Then she knows it's underway and the baton has been passed. She doesn't need to do any more follow-up because you have initiated the first contact. And she will tell you that, but she made a point to text me today and say, make sure that you tell them that. And then when your caring relationship ends, all of this confidential paperwork, she will either take back or she will trust that you will shred in a shredder, okay? Because then it just stays confidential. The only thing that she will ask of you is she will give you a closure form that you will fill out and that you'll give back to her. She keeps records of all of that, and that stays in her notes. A contact record sheet, I know you've talked about it. It's in your manual. on page 395. That is something you will fill out every time you have contact with your care receiver. The instructions are on page 396 about how to fill it out. In the initiated by column, you'll indicate whether you initiated the contact or your care receiver initiated the contact. If it's a regular caring visit where you have it set up Thursday afternoons at 2:30, you will put in there that you set that up because that's you have set that up together as the normal time. All right. To ensure confidentiality here too, don't write your care receiver's name or initials on this form. Just write care receiver at the top or CR. There's not a lot of room to write notes on the end where it talks about that, but just jot a few things down that might trigger your memory when you come to the next visit that maybe you want to revisit from your last meeting. I found that helpful. I might have written teary during a conversation about X. And then I could follow up with some question about that. When we left last time, you were really teary about, how are you feeling about that now? I remember that. You know, just little notes to jog your memory. It also can jog your memory when you fill out your form for supervision. It helps you remember kind of what the visit was about and where your relationship is at. You don't need to write a lot. If you make a phone call or you text them during the week, I always wrote those down too. It was just another point of reference or contact. And you can state that at supervision, say, well, we met on Thursday, but my care receiver texted me about this on Sunday. They texted me again about this on Tuesday. That's helpful even in your supervision group to know how to maybe advise. There's a lot of contact, there's no contact, you know, those are just good reference points. All right, we are going to do a little bit of practicing. There's a lot of directions with this, and I don't want to fumble over the directions because there is just a lot. All right, so we're going to practice. You're going to work with a partner, same partner for before the break during the 4 mini rounds, same partner after the break. The round one person will be the Stephen minister through the whole thing, one person will be the care receiver through the whole thing. Round 2, after the break, we'll swap. And we are really going to run through the drill of making a first caring visit, all the steps for making a first caring visit. You did a lot of reading on it. There are copies of forms on 487 and 488. Don't just briefly look at those so you know where to go, but now page back, because some of it you can't know and some of it the other person can't know. But when I say we're going to go to the referral form, that's when I'm going to need you to page 2. Okay, flip back so you don't gather all of that information. So 478 is the page we're on. We're going to start by setting up the first caring visit. So the best way to become comfortable is to try it ourselves. So this skill practice is set up into 4 parts. So let's say Bob and Don are together. Bob's the Stephen minister. He's going to be the Stephen minister for all 4 parts. Don will be the care receiver for all 4 parts. Take a couple of minutes to just review the first caring visit. Just briefly jog your memory, pages 459 to 469. It goes through all of the pieces, setting up the visit, the 3 parts of a first caring visit. Just jog your memory with all of those pieces a minute, and then we're going to move into the skill practice. Alright, let's form groups of 2, but don't really go anywhere yet. I'm gonna give a few directions. It gets a little tricky with this being a smaller room and some logistical things, so pick your partners a minute. Okay, put the men together and the ladies together. You are gonna need your manuals, everybody is. If you stay, yours can stay on the table, but, all right. For round 1 of these practices, person A, so decide who's gonna be the Stephen Minister, who's gonna be the care receiver.
I don't know what A is, so.
Stephen Minister is person A.
Care receiver, you said?
I'm gonna be A, whatever.
A, okay, you're the Stephen Minister this round.
Okay, you're the Stephen.
Okay.
There you go. And the care receiver.
So you just go
You
there
be
and
the
you
Stephen
can
Minister
stuff.
first,
Okay.
Patty at second.
Okay. We're gonna begin by spending 5 minutes preparing for these skills, and each of you is gonna prepare differently. Stephen Ministers, I'm gonna pull you out, we're gonna run into another room a minute, and I'm gonna share some information with you about what you need to know. You need your manuals, but don't read Focus Note 4, because that's the care receivers' information that they need to have for this round. So care receivers, your instructions are in Focus Note 4 on 478 and 479. You're gonna take 5 minutes to read that and reflect on playing out the role of the care receiver that's described there. It's filled with details that you need to know in order to play out what's gonna happen when the Stephen Minister contacts you. Okay, and when you get into a relationship. Stephen Ministers, you're gonna grab your manual and you're gonna come with me. So you guys are gonna read Focus Note 4 and get familiar with who you are, stay here, with who you are as a care receiver. I'm gonna take, are you the Stephen Minister?
I'm A, what was that?
Stephen Minister, so I'm gonna take you and you over to a room over here, and I'm gonna explain what you need to do. You guys are gonna read Focus Note 4 and become that care receiver.
I think the burden lies on them.
good?
Got that right.
All right.
I said the burden lies on them.
In a way. All right. Here we go. The first, part A. All right. I gave my instructions to my Stephen ministers. You guys read your focus note. All right. So this is part A. This is what we're gonna do first, setting up the first caring visit. The Stephen ministers are gonna initiate a phone call to set up the first caring visit. After you make that phone call, who are you gonna call?
Sure.
Yes, call Sherry and say you passed the baton and we're good to go. The care receivers are gonna be expecting this phone call from their new Stephen minister. So Sherry had told them in the next couple of days, somebody will be calling. It won't be a surprise to them. So when you call, it's not gonna be a shock. But you're not just gonna say, hi, this is Julie Van Salkema. Hi, this is Julie Van Salkema. I'm your new Stephen minister. Boom, that piece is done, right? This sounds a little weird, but it's helpful. Just like on the phone, you don't see each other. So when you practice this, go back to back. That way your referral form can be laying on your lap. You have your notes in front of you. It's a little bit helpful. When you make your phone call to them, you might want a piece of paper in front of you. You might want your referral form. You might want another notebook, piece of paper, just to jot down things that you hear when they're talking to you. They might start spilling already. You don't know, okay? So just get familiar. Focus note 5. I'm not gonna go that far. Yeah, I will. Focus note 5 talks about setting up this first caring visit. You're gonna pray for the caring relationship. I'm not gonna have you do that now for time's sake, but that you will want to pray over even making this phone call before you make the phone call. Call right away. Don't linger on that. Don't be nervous about that. Once Sherry tells you, get the ball rolling, okay? You're gonna set up a specific day and time and place to meet, and then assertively state that you would like to meet, and then respond assertively to any concerns that they might have. All right? So, we're gonna set up the first visit. If you even want these notes laying in front of you, your book laying in front of you, call right away. Specific day, time, place. Okay? These are all good tips and reminders to just have laying in front of you to practice. After we do the round, take a second to talk between the two of you what you think went well, what you think maybe didn't go so well. This is practice. This is the most to real life that you're gonna have, all right, before you do it. All right, so group 1 can head over there, group 2 can stay here,
We can be one.
okay?
I don't think she was listening to us, so. Okay.
You can go whatever makes sense.
Are we gonna come back here?
We're
Or
gonna
should
come
I
back
take my
here,
notes?
no, because,
Oh,
no,
after the break, you said.
well,
Like when
2
we
minutes.
flip flop?
yeah, in 2 minutes, we'll reconvene, because I wanna give you a few little things. So you're gonna go out there, you're gonna come back, there's just no logistically good way to do it. Unless I can talk in the doorway, I could do that too. So turn away from each other to simulate that phone conversation. And this is not a super long interaction, 2 to 3 minutes to set things up. So obviously the Stephen minister makes the phone call.
I'm second again, Bob. Ring, 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 ring.
Hello, this is Bob. Well, this is Chris, I guess.
Hi, Chris. This is Don Van Salkema from First Byron Center Church here in town, and I just wanted to let you know who I was. I'm calling on behalf of, I'm a Stevens minister here in Byron Center, and I was giving your name as a reference.
Oh, sure, yeah, well, Sherry had called me yesterday, so
Okay.
I was anticipating your call. Thanks for calling, Don.
Well, good. I wanted to, see if we could come together, and mutually agree on a time where we could meet. Wondering what you were thinking. I did know that you were aware that I would probably be calling. Possibly, I was told that maybe afternoons might work.
Yeah, afternoons work for me generally. I work in the morning, I'm kind of a split shift.
Is afternoon better or is evening actually better?
No, I mean, if afternoons work for you, good for me.
All right, was there a day that worked better for you, per se? I'm kind of open a little bit. Could do whatever you were thinking maybe.
Well, I'm kind of new to town, so, I really don't have a whole lot of going on in the afternoon, so I'm really good with whatever works for you.
I was thinking in my schedule, maybe Wednesday afternoon at like 4 o'clock.
Sounds good.
We could meet for maybe an hour.
Sure. Where do you want to meet?
You know, I'm open to that. You know, I live right here locally. Do you live all by yourself or, where is a good
I
place?
do. No, I live by myself right now, just moved into town, so, yeah, I don't have any family here, really don't have a whole lot of acquaintances, so it would work just fine at my house.
Well, why don't we just set the first meeting up, you know, to get to know each other and we'll set it up at your house and then we'll make some decisions from there.
Sounds good.
I can be done, but I have one question. Am I supposed to remind him about the confidentiality in this phone call or at the first meeting?
Good job. We got the job done? How did you feel?
You mean about the call, you mean?
Yeah.
You know, you got two highways here. Actually, to do it, I think it's gonna be easier. You're trying to remember what you're supposed to do and what the,
Yeah, I know.
you know what I mean? So, it's a double reminder. I think in the raw, that'd probably be more natural. I mean, I
Yeah.
have to call you and,
You probably call people all the time.
yeah, I do.
Yeah.
I mean, so, but, yeah, that's probably, this is more difficult when I'm trying to, you're not shooting from the hip about it. You're rehearsing what you know, so.
Yeah, and in this case, you know that Sherry has already talked to the person, so, I mean, the ground is all laid for that.
Right. I was a little surprised that, and I know anything can happen as I was reading, they do bring up the fact that some people are gonna fight you in a meeting. Well, they already agreed with Sherry to meet.
Yeah,
and then,
yeah.
you know,
Well, and sometimes I think they thought a little bit about it.
I know,
That's why I think too, that the quick call
yes.
is pretty
Yeah,
important,
pretty
you know,
important too.
strike while the iron's hot.
I'm a Christian.
All right, let's talk about how it went. How did your experience go? What did you learn for next time? Or if you have questions, we'll take just a minute so we can keep the night going. Thoughts?
We just got to the telephone call.
Yep.
Okay, that's what,
Yep,
okay.
that was just this part. Hard, easy, awkward?
Easy.
I think it's easy because knowing that Sherry's already made the
Yeah.
call, cleared the way. Now, if the person said, you know, I've thought about this and I don't really wanna go do it, you know, and they talk about that a little bit in the book, then that could
Yeah.
make it harder. but-
Right, right.
And our schedules jived without a lot of
Yep.
working that through.
And that, you know, even though it may be a more at length discussion, you're gonna find your way with that, cause that's just a logistical thing, you know?
That's,
And
that's
hopefully-
easy conversation, right?
Right. Good. Sherry's paved the way, it'd be great. All right, now, we're gonna get starting this relationship. So focus note 6 on page 480, you kind of see a summary from your pre-class reading on what needs to happen during this part of the visit. Okay, up on top, focus note 6 talks about making that first meeting. Relax, be yourself. Start with introductions, light conversation. This is where you're gonna mention confidentiality and supervision. Don't dwell on the supervision piece, because that is the piece that might make them most anxious. Sherry has talked to them about it. You do need to mention it again, but I would focus more on the confidentiality piece, less on the supervision piece, but just be, truthfully assertive that that is part of this process, all right? And then you're gonna bridge the gap. Focus note 7 talks a little bit about bridging the gap. Just a helpful little piece. I'm here to be your Stephen minister, to walk with you through the challenges you're dealing with. I'll be doing what I can to support you, listening, caring, just being here for you. Here's bridging the gaps. So, what's been going on in your life lately? All right?
And none of that happens on that first phone call.
Really not.
It's just logistics.
Really not. It's a logistical, setting up the time, showing, a little bit of care. Bridging the gap is really getting into, the main part of the conversation. You move from the small talk, the introduction, small talk, into this is why we're meeting, okay? So, we're gonna go back into our groups. The Stephen minister has arrived at the house. You can face each other because now you're meeting. Begin by introducing yourself and then continue, okay, up to the point where you're gonna bridge the gap. And that's about it for now, okay? So introduce, you can start to explore the visit, but don't go too deep yet because that's gonna be the next piece. So kind of small introductions, small talk, and then kind of introduce getting into the meat of the topic, okay? The next section is kind of digging deeper into the exploring the problem. So this takes just quick 2 minutes, 1 minute.
Okay.
So this is just really just the.
Yep, hi, I'm so-and-so, some small talk.
Knock, knock, knock.
Yes.
Hi, Chris, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Good, yeah. Good to see you face to face. I was wondering if I would recognize you, but I don't. That's kind of interesting, but that doesn't matter. We'll spend some time together, maybe get to know each other, but yeah. It's good to be here. I just want to run over a few things with you. I come as a Stevens minister on behalf of the Stevens Minister Program, and I want you to be well aware of that.
Could you just explain that a little bit more to me? Sherry said a few things, but I just want to hear it from you.
The Stevens Minister is a walk alongside program, so to speak. Just someone who just walks alongside in a difficult situation, or mentors, or is a listening ear to a person who may have a need for that. It's just a time to come together and to talk and to share and to encourage one another. Just so you know, there is a supervision group. This is not just a willy-nilly thing. There's a process to it all, and you can be confident in that process.
I don't understand.
Yeah.
I don't go to your church right now, but if I did, and some other people knew what we were talking about and so forth, right now I'm new to town. I really don't care a whole lot, but I don't know. I've been thinking a little bit about maybe going to your church, and maybe I want to shy away from that.
Well, inside the the regulations for the program, names are not mentioned, that's very confidential. Really, only 2 people even know, that we're meeting. It was Sherry who called you the other day. She knows, and then I know, but nobody else at any point in time.
So do you tell Sherry what we're talking about?
You know, I will be in contact with her. There's some forms that I have to fill out, just to make sure she knows what is happening. But we will meet in a supervisory type committee where we go back and share what is going on between our conversations, and it's a way to stay on track and also get advisement, you know, but not overtly. No, we don't talk about the situation. It's very, very vague from that point of view. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, can I pause you a minute? I'm not gonna make you come back in,
I'll get better at that. That
No,
could be a
you're
real
fine.
tough one right there.
okay? Good antagonistic, that was good. I mean, that can happen. You're gonna have people that are really worried about confidentiality. They're worried about supervision. And you just have to affirm that this is all part of the process, that it will stay, like Bob asked a really good question. Are you gonna be, you know, Sherry knows that we're meeting, are you gonna report back to Sherry what we're talking about? And in a way, you can say, I'm not reporting back to Sherry all the details that you will be telling me. Sherry is gonna wanna know how the relationship is going. She's gonna wanna know that we're meeting regularly. Just keep it really surfacey, because they get nervous that you're sharing every nitty-gritty detail, and you won't be sharing that in supervision. You won't be sharing the nitty-gritty, so assure them that that you will be sharing how the relationship is going and that the relationship is continuing on a regular basis. That's kind of what you want to assure them of. Okay, does that make sense? Okay. So now get into the exploring piece of it. You're gonna get into talking about what the thrust of the crisis is in the relationship. So now the student minister is gonna start, yeah, you are starting to go there. You're gonna start to talk about what's going on and exploring the feelings and exploring why they are needing a Stephen minister. And there's some key points about exploring that on page 481. Learn more about the primary challenge, examine the bigger picture, and develop an initial understanding of the care receiver's situation and needs. And there might be multiple. So you haven't learned a lot, but you've learned a little bit about, you've relocated and a divorce. So there's 2 pretty major things. It's not just the divorce, but relocation can be a big deal too.
I have a question.
Yes.
When Sherry meets with care receiver, is it stated that we're not here to fix, that we're just walking alongside?
Yes, and you're gonna want to keep bringing that forth too. Don, I
Yeah,
don't wanna
we're
knock
here to
you.
fix it.
Don't say that you're a mentor, because mentors fix.
Yeah.
Stephen ministers don't fix.
Right.
Okay, so
Walk alongside.
don't, I know, I'm sorry,
Oh, that's
but
fine.
we get told that a lot, we're not mentors, we're walk alongside.
That was tough on me.
What?
That was tough on me, I was stuttering.
I know.
Well, it
So,
said to be a little
but
tough
it's good
at
to
first,
practice
so.
it, cause really, I mean, in real
You don't know
life,
what you're walking
you're not
into.
knowing what you're walking into, and you had read up, you didn't have much. I didn't give you much. I read, I know all of this. I know all of what Bob and Julie know. And I can only give
You don't really
you,
know what my situation is.
I will tell you, Sherry will give you more than what is on this practice referral form. You will typically know a little bit more, okay?
Can I later see what you know?
Well, when you switch roles, you'll see a referral form, but the situation will be different. Okay, so now start to connect and dig into the problem. I'll give you like 5 minutes to dig into your situation.
So Chris, as I was walking over here, I noticed outside the house that there's quite a few, you're quite a gardener, a lot of plants around and some things like that. Tell me a little bit about that. Is that, you got a little green thumb going there, something you enjoy, or?
Yeah, I've always kind of enjoyed gardening, but, now that I'm alone, it just gives me something to do and something to just work with. Long, quiet nights.
Yeah.
Well, and like you learn, I mean, I've got afternoons off, so I got this goofy split shift.
Yeah,
And, so yeah, afternoon time I can do some gardening and stuff, takes my mind off of things.
yeah. Have you moved back into this area recently, or has it been a longer time?
Well, this is really a new area for me.
Okay, new area, okay. So, just in simple terms, what's going on, Bob? What's going on in your life?
Well, my wife and I recently got a divorce, and it was just really difficult. Got 2 kids, both in their 20s, and it seems like most of our adult life, we've communicated everything around the kids. And then when the kids left, it just fell apart. I mean, there was just nothing in common anymore. Couldn't talk or anything. So then we got divorced, and I had an opportunity to move here and start a new job. And so I took that job just kind of thinking, yeah, might be a nice fresh start. So that's what I'm doing here, and that's kind of where things are at.
Do you have any contact with your kids at all, or?
Oh, yeah. Talk to the kids, at least a couple times a week, but, it's just different. I mean, we were a family, and now we're all kind of separate, living in different towns and all of that, so.
A little bit of a void and a hole there.
Big,
To sort
yeah.
through all that
Yeah.
and recreate,
Yeah, I don't have many friends here, don't have any friends that work really yet.
yeah. Other than gardening, do you have any other hobbies per se, or mostly just work and?
Yeah, I mean, I stay pretty busy with work, so, yeah, I mean, so I work, garden, work, sleep, that's about it.
Yeah, I can see where, that being fresh, that could be difficult, could be really difficult. Do you feel like you're moving on, or are you kind of just staying in the same spot?
It's getting worse.
Okay. It is
It just gets harder and harder. I think maybe I goofed by separating from friends also and moving to a different town, so it's not getting any better, that's for sure. It's getting worse.
Okay. Well, I just want to tell you that I'm here to walk alongside of you, I'm here to listen, to be a sounding board for you, so you can get some of these thoughts out, if you care to share that with me. Kind of walk that path with you a little bit, week in and week out, and, see where it takes us, but, yeah, I can see where that would be a very, very tough situation after being married for so
Yeah,
long.
but if after a while this just isn't working for me.
Well, I'm gonna encourage you to be patient and see where we go,
Can I pause you? You're kind of both headed there. I want you to practice ending your first visit. Obviously, this will go longer when you do your initial visit, okay? But this part to me felt like you were much more at ease with each other. This felt more comfortable to be able to have a conversation, sometimes getting over the bumpy of the formality of the beginning about supervision and about boundaries, and you don't know this person and now you settled in, yep, okay, so talk about supervision and boundaries, and then kind of go into exploring, the situation. So now work on closing this visit, keep in mind that you need to set up your next meeting. All right, on, focus note 9, all right, it talks about the key points about ending the visit, identify anything else to discuss, summarize, and this is hard to do, you've spent 5 minutes. Offer to pray. I will say that's a powerful way to end the conversation. Offer to pray, again, you don't have to do that right now, but make sure you set up your next visit time. And that will start to become a rhythm if that's what's gonna end up working, all right? And then you can close the hearing visit. So take about 1-2 minutes to close up your visit.
Chris, if I may, I understand where you're coming from, what if this doesn't work out, but, this is our first time coming together, we didn't know each other, before a half hour ago, and, I would just encourage you to, take it 1 week at a time, and let's just evaluate it, as we walk that path together. Maybe I can, be of such, a kind of person that, we would enjoy each other's company and time, and, it could be an encouragement to you. It's always up to you, it's always gonna remain up to you, but, I would love to, be on that path, towards healing.
Okay. Well, I'm willing to give it a shot.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay. So as we walk through this visit talking, the recent divorce is really on your mind, and I can understand that. And between now and the next week, I'll understand it even more. I'll do some thinking about it and praying about it privately.
Yeah, it's the divorce thing, but it's also just this whole moving to a new town, and I don't know anybody.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out how to relate to the kids, and, it just gets messier and messier the more it kind of ruminates in my head, so.
Well, we're nearing the close of our time together, this week, but, if I can pray for us, both of us together, if you don't mind, I'd like to do that.
Yeah, I'd like that.
Okay. Good. This Wednesday at 4 o'clock works good so far for me. I know today is our first day, but if you thought about it more, can we continue that next week at least, or?
Yeah,
Okay.
next week will work, I'm pretty sure that
All
works,
right,
so.
wonderful. I will make sure that we, I see you next week, Wednesday, and, Godspeed.
Good, thank you.
All right, come on back.
I want Rosalie for my student minister.
I don't think I'm lighting anybody on fire, I'll tell you that. Tripping over my tongue.
It gets easier. All right, before our break, just a few thoughts. So during your first hearing visit, an important focus is obviously on building a relationship. So think back to the safe house, where the care receiver can feel comfortable sharing. Even if it was role playing, I could hear, it felt like you were comfortable sharing, and Stephen ministers were asking good questions. Focus on listening to your care receiver rather than talking. Ask good open-ended questions. Encourage your care receiver to share whatever on his or her mind. It might be that you and your care receiver will already know each other, all right? That's gonna take some of that maybe angst away if you do know them.
I think for the Stephen minister, but maybe for the care receiver who now has to share their stuff, maybe that might,
So out of the care receivers that I've had, I knew who all 3 were. I knew one really quite well. It was maybe a little strange at the beginning, just because our relationship had always been,
more up here.
well, I knew her pretty well. She had been part of my life in various arenas where we were around each other a lot. I wouldn't say we were close, and I wouldn't say I knew this hard part of her life. because it really had never come to the surface. But we got to be really close, and she trusted me with some really hard stuff. And I don't feel like it was super hard for her to share. It might be. Another one, it was harder to share. I knew her a little, but not a lot. The other one, I really only knew by name and face. And all three went great. I built a good relationship. They shared really well. It really depends on their personality too, and what they're willing to,
Let
come
you
out
know.
with. Yep. So, it might be that you or your care receiver already know each other, or you might be meeting for the first time. You've maybe met, but you don't know anything about each other. Either way, this will be the first of many visits, and you're not gonna accomplish everything during that first visit. Just, you're laying a foundation. You're laying a caring foundation that you're gonna trust God with, right? So, there's a little angst in it, when you're making that phone call, when you're making that visit, and maybe not. For some of you, it might just be like spreading soft butter on a piece of toast. It might go really well. For some personalities, there's a little nerviness to it, to have that initial conversation. Some of it's getting through some of the formalities of supervision, boundaries, what this relationship looks like, and you're a little nervous and you want to remember all the pieces to it, and you might have forgotten something, and it's okay if you did, because you can think about it when you get home and you can revisit that next time. You're human too, okay? So don't beat yourself up when you get home and say, oh, I forgot to talk about boundaries. Circle back, okay? Circle back, it's okay. Let's take a break, 5-10 minutes, and then we'll flop the role play, flop the scenario. And we'll swap roles.
You did good.
Well,
What are these
Whoever
stories?
was missing the last time was Sherry about the
Well, and
closure.
I was
That was
purposely
Bob.
You
holding
were
back a bit
missing,
'cause I was
Rosalie,
kinda
and I
told
think
to.
Bob.
I'm gonna put these.
Yes, go for it.
I get that,
Right around the corner, there's a family restroom, like
yeah.
next door down, I
Yeah,
believe.
I mean, I'm not scared that, and when you've got an hour to talk about something, you can wait or, have general conversation.
Yeah, and we're trying to do it in 5 minutes,
Yeah,
so.